Like you cannot for long periods sustain growth, sustain confident decision making if you are in a state physically of fight or flight, of burnout. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I have my friend Jordan on the podcast, and Jordan and I met, I guess that was a year ago. That was like pretty much exactly a year ago now at a business retreat. And we just kind of immediately like hit it off with this small group of girls and have just stayed in touch ever since. And she's also an entrepreneur, a coach. And so we just have a lot in common. And I'm excited to talk to her today about burnout because, yeah, she has a lot to say on this topic, is just like an expert in all of this. So it's going to be a good combo. So buckle up. I know that like, gosh, as creators and like business owners, entrepreneurs, we can go through phases of burnout and it feels like just a never ending cycle sometimes. So we're going to talk about kind of how to manage that and deal with that. But Jordan, so good to have you on the podcast. Hi.
Hi, Maddie. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Would you give the listeners just a little bit of background on who you are, where you live, what you do for work, et cetera, et cetera?
I would love to. Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Jordan Flynn. I am a life transformation coach and somatic practitioner. And I come from the corporate world where I spent almost a decade in medical aesthetic sales and corporate leadership. And I eventually burned out. So I built this beautiful life on paper, and I found myself just feeling very misaligned and truly disconnected from myself. I experienced layoffs in the corporate world as a manager. I did a pivot in my career, and I just kind of was on this roller coaster ride for a few years of the last few years of my corporate career. And I found myself in a role that I just was not lit up about it. I was working harder than I've ever worked before, over functioning, and the results were not matching the effort.
Yeah.
And instead of, taking a step back and really assessing kind of what was going wrong, I was like, no, more doing, more strategy. And I just kept pushing past myself until eventually I reached a point of burnout. And that is when I finally got so uncomfortable in my comfort zone that I decided to do something different.
Yeah.
And this has led me on this amazing self discovery journey and reconnection back to myself and my core values and what lights me up and what excites me. And in that journey, I've been able to find my purpose, which is coaching and helping other women really exit survival mode and rebuild self trust, rebuild the relationship with themselves so that they can build a life that feels aligned and fulfilling with who they truly are.
Ugh, love it. I also think this is just so relatable probably to a lot of listeners because I think a lot of people get into content creation, UGC, this whole world because they are working like a job that they just don't feel fulfilled in, or they know that they want to go the entrepreneurship route or they want to try something different and they literally just feel burnt out in their career. Like I know that I felt that way when I was working in corporate. I was just like, dude, this is not what I'm meant to be doing. And like I just hated working every single day. It was miserable. And it was like, okay, eventually, like you said, you just reach a point of being so uncomfortable that you have to just do something else and like take that leap. And I wish more people knew that they could take that leap and like make changes before they get to that point of like extreme burnout and just like literally hating their life. What are, I'm curious, like the symptoms or signs that somebody might be experiencing burnout or on the edge of experiencing burnout?
Yeah, this is a great question. And there's so many layers to it because a lot of so when we think of burnout, we usually think of like full on collapse, like emotional numbness, and that is very serious. And we absolutely can get there eventually when our nervous systems are so in our stress responses for a prolonged period of time. Like it, dysregulation is like a road, and if you continue going down that road, eventually you will reach full burnout collapse, and where your body just can't hold anymore. But I think one of the things that not a lot of people talk about is this like high functioning burnout, which I'm very familiar with. And it's where we are still very much, working and functioning and showing up and doing all the things, but experiencing anxiety, chronic fatigue. We can't shut our minds off, right? And then we come home and we're actually just crashing on the couch, right? But our minds are still kind of spinning. And, we're going and we're sleeping and we're like, oh, we just need to do more, sleep more, rest more, right? Weekend off. That's what I need. And we think rest is the answer, but our bodies are stuck in that fight or flight mode, right? Our sympathetic nervous system, where it cannot rest because it does not feel safe to actually switch off. And that is much more common than I think a lot of people realize. And eventually that can lead to a full burnout collapse where we don't feel any inspiration or motivation to get off the couch, right? We are frozen. Now we're in the immobilization stage, and that is really challenging to get out of.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely relate to that first part of just, like, high functioning, I'm pushing through, I'm, like, doing, and I think that that's gonna solve how I feel, and I think it comes from a place, I mean, at least for me personally, of self-worth and feeling like, well, if I just work harder and I do more, I'm gonna feel better about myself because, like, I know that I'm showing up and I'm putting in the work, but, like, it literally doesn't work like that because you'll always feel like you can do more. Like, you will never reach a place of like, "Oh, yes, I am doing the most that I can do, and I feel so proud," and blah, blah, blah. Because it's like, no, you literally will never reach that, and if, like, quote, unquote, "you do," you're gonna be so fucking tired. Like, there's just no way to sustain that. I guess kind of going back, I didn't really ask this, but how do you define burnout? Like, is there like a definition for burnout?
Yeah. In my opinion, burnout is comes a lot from disconnection from yourself. Um, and there's a lot of different layers to it, but I think, really truly what burnout is your mind and your body being in survival mode for an extended period of time. And a lot of that does come down to, attaching our worth, right, to
Mhm.
output, um, and disconnecting from our own needs and really focusing on everybody else and getting away from what truly excites us. So I think there's a lot of different definitions, but I
Mhm.
think burnout is not just exhaustion. To me, it's much deeper than that. And it's comes usually because we're avoiding feeling how we're really feeling.
Mm, snaps. No, I couldn't agree more, and I think that I used to just view burnout as like, "Oh, I'm working so much that I'm exhausted and I can't keep this up." But when I actually looked back at my history of feeling burnt out, I was like, oh, that's, like, actually not at all what was happening for me. So, like, when I was doing UGC full-time, and that was, like, my full-time job, it wasn't even full-time. Like, I did UGC probably 25 hours a week, and, like, that was my full-time job and my full-time income. And most people would be like, "That's amazing. How could you experience burnout when you're working 25 hours a week?" Right? But for me, I am an extremely multi-passionate person. I love trying new things and doing multiple things, like, I just love that, like, that excites me about life, and so doing one thing and, like, dedicating 25 hours a week to, like, that one thing, I was just, like, losing my mind because I was like, "I want to be pursuing, like, these things that I'm passionate about, and I have this other, like, thing that I'm interested in," and when I was just doing one thing, I was just so burnt out because I was, like, just not fulfilled. Like, I wasn't doing all the things that I wanted to be doing, and it's, like, hard to explain that because then, like, I would have periods where then later I, like, started my coaching business, and I was doing UGC, and I was running, like, an outdoor community, like, I was doing all these 3 things at once, and I was so fulfilled and so happy, but I was, like, way busier and working more, and then I experienced burnout with that because eventually I was like, "You know what? Like, the outdoor community that I'm running, I'm not as passionate about it anymore. It's become this, like, thing that I don't really want to do." But again, it wasn't because of the work. It wasn't, like, the amount of work that I was putting in. It was a lack of, like, connection and passion for that project. And I think that's where burnout definitely shows up for me. So I really related to, like, how you kind of defined that. Mhm.
Yeah, and I think exactly what you said, what's so interesting about it is you're absolutely right. Typically, we think about burnout and we're like, oh, this means I'm working too much. And actually, if we start to look at it as a signal that we're out of alignment, or maybe we're not listening to our own intuition, and we take a moment to actually really reconnect with ourselves and go inward and start asking some of those questions like, hey, am I following like my highest excitement? Am I doing what truly like lights me up? And really paying attention to where we're kind of living out of alignment with our core values. And that is truly like the map back to home to ourselves, right?
Okay, I love that. So if someone's, like, in burnout and they're like, "I don't know what to do to get out of it," and obviously this looks different for literally everyone because you're experiencing, like, different levels of burnout or burnout for maybe different reasons or in different situations, but in general, like, what are the tips that you would give people who are currently experiencing burnout to help them get back into alignment with who they are and what they want?
Yeah. So, first, I just want to talk a little bit about like the nervous system because it's really important. Like, your energy alignment every single day, like, your energy is 90% of your results in life, right? 90% of your success. And again, I think we get so caught up in the strategy piece and the more doing and less being, right? When this is an opportunity for you to really pay attention to your alignment, right? Your energy and filling your own cup up. And I know this is really hard for a lot of people. This was something that was really challenging for me for a long time, was like choosing myself, prioritizing myself, making me the number one priority was such an uncomfortable thing. But we have to get back to really rebuilding that relationship with ourselves. How are you speaking to yourself on a daily basis, right? How are you prioritizing yourself? How are you showing up for yourself? And I would look at where you are spending your energy every single day. When you wake up in the morning, are you flipping over and scrolling on your phone and going on social media and comparing yourself, and that's how you're starting your day? Or are you taking a pause? You're getting up, maybe taking a couple of deep breaths, sipping your coffee or your matcha and just really, savoring your mornings before you open your laptop and look at your phone. How are you ending your day? Do you have an evening routine where you wind down with a cup of tea and a book, or are you working on your laptop till midnight?
Yeah.
Right. So I think looking at some of those things and where we spend our day, are you working through lunch or are you going outside and taking a walk and, getting out into nature? So I think one of the first steps is really to get really honest with yourself and look at how you are spending your energy every single day, because that is super important. And the other thing is, I think it's really easy to get caught up in just working. And I would ask you to ask yourself, like, what am I doing just for me and nobody else? And again, it just goes back to filling your cup up. So, can you pick one thing, big or small, whatever it is, and commit to it every single day? Pencil it into your calendar. No excuses. Not it's a non-negotiable that is going to make you feel like you are coming from a place of my cup is full every single.
Mhm.
So I think it's really small. Obviously, spending time in nature, getting outside, going for walks without your phone, disconnecting, less screen time, less consuming, because, comparison is the thief of joy. And I think a lot of times, especially as entrepreneurs and as creators, it's so easy to get lost in all the noise and all the distractions. And we can go down a rabbit hole and like start not even realizing we're like, oh my gosh, we're comparing ourselves, and we're, comparing where we're at, compared to like somebody else's like journeys to other people's. And we get intimidated and we become hard on ourselves, and we place this internal pressure if we're not further along, right? So I think we have to be very aware of how we're consuming on a daily basis, because that is also going to steal our joy and really steal our energy.
Mm. I like the topic of needing to regulate your body and your nervous system first. This is like the third podcast episode this kind of theme has come up on. And it's just so true because you're not going to make aligned decisions. You're not going to make calm decisions, uh, confident decisions if you don't physically in your body feel safe and calm and confident. Like, and it's just, it seems like such a, I don't know, maybe it seems simple, maybe it seems woo woo, but like, it's just literally how we function. Like, you cannot for long periods sustain growth, sustain confident decision making if you are in a state physically of fight or flight, of burnout, of exhaustion, because that affects so much. Like, it literally energetically like affects everything. It affects our mind, it affects our decision making. And like, I feel that like when I am anxious or I know like my body is out of alignment, like there are very clear signs to me that like I know that that's happening. Like, and I would kind of urge people to be like, can you recognize those signs in yourself? Like, are there certain physical things that happen when you feel stressed or out of alignment? Like, do you have a pit in your stomach? Do you feel tense? Do you get a headache? Like, are there certain things that literally like come up when you experience these? And when that happens, can you sit back and be like, okay, I'm going to go for a walk and I'm going to ground myself. I'm going to literally go touch grass, or I am going to, you know, breathe. I'm going to do the like five senses exercise that we do in therapy. Like, these are literally the things that we can do to come back to our body. And from there, then you can start thinking about, okay, I feel safe. I feel calm. What are the next decisions that I need to make? And now let me think about those from like a healthy place. And I just think that's such an important topic.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that's very nervous system coach of you. So I love that. I love that. It's so good. So something else that you can do is it's called name it to tame it. So you can actually name how you're feeling out loud. And I would take it one step further and I would validate my experience. So I would pause, put my hand on my heart and be like, okay, of course I'm feeling this way. Like, I believe you, I'm listening. And when we do that, we are actually signaling to our body safety, and our body begins to soften, and it realizes that we're actually not doing anything wrong, like that our experience is valid. Because think about how often we gaslight ourselves and we're like, why am I feeling this way? Why can't I just get over it? When in reality, what that's actually doing is telling our body that how we're feeling is wrong, which is further dysregulating ourselves, right? And then we get activated into our stress responses. And yeah, so it's an opportunity to exactly what you said, Maddie. It's just come back into the body, pause, when in doubt, reconnecting with your breath, looking at clouds, reconnecting to nature. There's always resources around you that are going to signal safety. Your eyes are a great place to start as well, just looking around your surroundings, because there's two reasons why your nervous system gets activated every single day. Reason number one is that there's actual danger, right? Which is good. We need to know when there's danger, if we need to run away or fight back. But reason number two, which is most common, and this is why 99% of people are walking around completely activated, is because of perceived threat, which means that there's not actual danger. Your body just believes that there's danger around you. So it's your job to learn the language of your nervous system, exactly what you were saying earlier, and reconnect and show your body that it's safe to soften. Otherwise, we are constantly living on edge, which is not healthy to be in our stress responses for a long period of time, right? Because ultimately, that's going to lead our bodies to burnout. So it's really important to really spend a few moments every single day, movement, connecting with your breath, looking around your surroundings, shifting back into the present moment and giving yourself the gift of being truly present with yourself. And that is going to help you so much. Also, just finding a way to do things more slower and more intentional is a beautiful place to start as well.
Mm, couldn't agree more. I also would love to talk about the concept of, like, what if people are burnt out because they're exhausted? And, like, how do we go about that? And when I think about this from the creator perspective, let's say someone's burnt out because they are working, 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week doing content creation, and they're just like, "Oh my god, I'm so tired. Like, I like what I do. This job's fun. I, enjoy this, but I am exhausted." And so they're kind of experiencing burnout in that way. Um Kind of what I feel like what my mind goes to is, okay, now we need to get back to delegating tasks, or how can we take things off our plate? And I feel like that almost comes from a place of, like, knowing your self-worth, because, like, if you think your time is worth a certain amount, then you're just going to be like, okay, well then I have to work more and I have to do this and whatever. But it's like, once you kind of get to this place of, no, like, I am worth making 10K months working 30 hours a week. I am worth XYZ. Like, once you kind of get that in your head and being like, my time is not, like, where my value comes from in terms of what I get paid, I think that is a big shift that happens. And then you're able to be like, okay, great. Let me raise my rates so that I can take on less clients and still make the same amount of money. Or let me hire a VA because they can do these tasks that take me 5 hours a week. So therefore, I'm saving 5 hours of my time, and, like, how much I pay them is totally worth it. And, like, I think there's just certain ways that we can outsource, delegate, and also come back to, like, what is my kind of perception of my self-worth, and how do I translate that to, like, how I spend my time? I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's such a good topic to speak on because it's challenging. Like when you're an entrepreneur, like it does require hustle.
Mhm.
Like you gotta hustle. You gotta put in the work. And I think it's easy for us to also really get caught up in overworking and overfunctioning because we are our own boss and we set our own hours. And it's really easy to be like, oh, there's always just so much to do. But I think it also comes back to really paying attention to what we're focusing on because there's always going to be more work. And if we are
Yeah.
always looking for more work, we can create more work. We can create as much work or as little work as possible.
Yeah.
So I think what's key here is figuring out a sustainable pace for you. Because I know like a lot of it comes from this pressure of like, oh, well, in order to grow my following, I need to be posting 3 times a day. Well, is that really quality? And a lot of times it's not, and maybe you are doing that and that's truly amazing, like
Yeah.
all the to you, but I think it's just kind of again getting honest with our workload and setting some boundaries with ourselves. And really being like, okay, and I love your suggestion about delegating tasks. Like maybe I need to hire somebody, maybe it's time to hire somebody and pass off some of this work and trust somebody else with some of these tasks that I don't really truly enjoy
Yep.
doing so that I can own my genius, so that I can own, my skill sets, right? And really focus on being the visionary. So I think there's a lot of things to look at from here, but I think ultimately that again is a signal that your pace is not sustainable,
Mm.
and we need to look at how you're spending your time every single day and where you can maybe delegate some of those tasks or maybe not post as much, and just try out a different pace. Try something new and see how that feels. But really listen to your intuition on that too. It's like,
Yeah.
what feels right for me? Like, how do I want my days to look like? Because, yeah, I love what you said too. It's like, you know, hey, we are the authority, right? We're the CEO of our lives. We get to determine how we're the business owners. We have the power, right? So sometimes we have to just readjust things accordingly. Um, and yeah.
Yeah. What advice would you give to people and creators, people listening to this podcast, to avoid burnout? So, like, what can we do to not get to that point?
Yes. So to avoid burning out, I think so. One of the really, I wanted to say this really quick, especially when it comes to women, our nervous system, uh, actually, our primary regulator is something called oxytocin, which is the love hormone. So we need more love. Need more presence. We need more softness. We need to lean a little bit more into that feminine energy. Um, and we obviously thrive in a very masculine society that thrives off of dopamine and doing and checklists and notifications. And the dopamine actually depletes our oxytocin as females. So it's really interesting because one of the things that is really great to start regulating your nervous system and shifting your body, the female nervous system back into a state of rest and digest is actually somatic touch. So somatic hugs, again, just softness. So there's a lot of things, rocking. So those are beautiful things to regulate. So I would say to avoid actually burning out would to have a consistent, like even micro resets every single day where you reconnect with yourself, where you move your body, where you spend time with you. I also love EFT tapping. If you're not familiar with that, that's a great way to really help lessen the charge of emotions. But I would say just really get into a habit of feeling how you're really feeling and validating your experience and allowing yourself to cry, allowing yourself to be angry, allowing yourself to feel all the things instead of suppress them, right? Especially as women, we are very cyclical beings. We have ebbs and flows. And I think sometimes we try to put all this pressure on ourselves and we're like, why can't I just constantly be, feeling my best 100% of the time? And that's just unrealistic.
Yeah.
So I think a big piece of it is taking that pressure off yourself and meeting yourself where you are and listening to your body, listening to your intuition, listening to the signs and the signals when your body whispers, hey, I'm tired. Honor that. Take a nap. Allow yourself that rest. Allow yourself that softness, and do more of what lights you up. Do more of what makes you feel good, and spend time filling your cup up, because when we follow our highest excitement, when we follow our joy, our energy is higher, right? When we feel good,
Yeah.
we show up differently in the world. And the biggest thing that comes down to that, the foundation of it all, is self-love, right? It's self-love. It's the way that we speak to ourselves, the way that we show up for ourselves, the way that we prioritize ourselves. So I think if you can spend time, even if it's like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever you can give yourself every single day, spend time telling yourself, I'm really proud of you. You're doing a great job. Like, I'm so proud of everything that you're doing. Like, how is everything always working out for me? How am I so lucky? Look how easy my life gets to be. Really believing that and leaning into that and becoming your own biggest cheerleader, so that when life lifes, like, you can handle the capacity of it. You can hold that, right? And that's truly what nervous system regulation is. When you're able to support your body and you're able to really feel secure in who you truly are and come from a place of being just totally grounded, right? You are able to handle those ebbs and flows, those different seasons of life, because you have the capacity to hold it.
Mm, yeah. All of that. Yes. I just love talking about this stuff. I think it's just such an important topic because I think a lot of people just don't know what like the cause of burnout is, and they just think they're crazy or they're not working hard enough or they're working too much and they don't know how to not. And like I just think it's such a kind of confusing topic, but it's actually so simple. Like it's literally just getting back into alignment with what you really want. And like that's the core of it. Is there any topics or anything on this conversation that we like didn't cover that you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we covered a lot.
Yeah. Great. Well, this was such a great conversation. I want to keep having these conversations. I think these are so important. If anyone would like to connect with you and just continue to be in your world, learn from you, see what your offerings are, how to work with you, how could we do that?
Yes. So you can follow me over on Instagram at the Jordan Flynn. And then you can also go to my website, www.thejordanflynn.com, and everything is there.
I love it. And we will link to your Instagram and the website below in the show notes. So if you guys want to go check her out, that is easy to just click on right there. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast and taking the time to just kind of give these insights to the listeners. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Maddie, for having me.
Yay, of course. And thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you on the next episode. Bye, everyone.
If you want to become a UGC creator and get paid to travel, then my UGC Accelerator is for you. Fast track your UGC career with over 40 video trainings, live weekly Q&A calls, and direct access to me as your UGC coach. You'll get personalized feedback, accountability, and a proven 3-month roadmap to start getting paid UGC deals. Plus, an active community of over 100 other creators also on their UGC journeys. Some students have earned over $2,000 in UGC deals within weeks. And I have students like Lene, who quit her nannying job just 4 months after starting the program because of UGC. Or Katie, who's made over $12,000 in her first few months of pitching. Plus, there's a no-brainer guarantee. If you don't make back your investment in the program, I'll give you a full refund. So, if you're ready to take UGC seriously, click the link in the description to learn more.